Now is the time of year when we acknowledge that we are approaching the darkest time, when daylight is briefest and the cold air becomes more biting. This is the time that reminds us that we need to fatten up for the coming season, eat pumpkin pie, become close together in our homes, invite friends and family to pass the time. Though the traditional origins of the Thanksgiving holiday are fraught with inaccuracy and certainly do not reflect our current cultural values, we are still encouraged to embrace gratitude as we can find it in our lives. Thanksgiving is the only American holiday that is religious. I believe it is the only real religious holiday left. All the more dominant holidays have been consumed by marketing and nationalism. Yes, it may be argued by some that the frenzy over turkey, stuffing mix, and cranberry sauce are part of our capitalist culture. If it is true that if you are a turkey farmer, this is your time of year. What makes Thanksgiving Day so religious? After all, there are no expected church services, no miracles, no set theology. Anyone of any faith or no faith can celebrate this holiday. One can be of any creed or no creed, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Muslim, atheist. It does not matter. All that this holiday asks of you is that you gather, or even if you're alone, to reflect on gratitude. Being grateful is essentially a religious practice that transcends the confines of any one tradition or religious belief. Gratitude, though, is not experienced in an experiential vacuum. If you're reflecting on your year, then you are reflecting on it in its entirety. There are things that one can be grateful for and things that one wished never happened. Every year is a combination of good and bad, and some of that reflection, if we're honest, is also about ourselves. But we reflect this time upon the year. A beloved family member died, but the family became closer. You had a health crisis and you found help. Your side in politics lost, and later people realized how bad the other side was. You experienced a difficult time and realized that your faith community was supportive. This is the way life is. Even if you're facing death, there is still the possibility of being grateful for friendship, opportunity, family, marriage, meaningful work, and many other aspects of life and love. I know that people do this. Before you hired me as your developmental minister, I served as a hospice chaplain. Many of the people who I served reflected on their lives and were very grateful. That is a component of the good death that hospice care provides. But it is also true for us if we look at life that way. This has been a very difficult year, though, for many of us in this congregation. When we look at the world, we have witnessed threats to the well-being of many in our nation. It is daunting to consider that unless one is a white, English-speaking, heterosexual, cisgender, upper middle class, or upper class Christian male citizen, then one has probably wondered about one's civil rights. This is not meant to encourage guilt in any of us who might fit that description or parts of it, but to point out that many people, indeed the majority of people in this country, have in one way or another been threatened by the actions of those currently in power nationally. To be explicit, we had witnessed threats to foreign-born Americans and U.S. citizens, some of whom were held in cells by ICE for days without being charged or having access to an attorney. We have witnessed hundreds of bills in state houses that have sought to limit the rights of women and LGBTQ plus people and withdraw protections from people who are not white. The nation is withholding medical help, food benefits, and many other forms of aid to the poor and veterans, while giving tax cuts to the very wealthy. This is not the path that Jesus described as the kingdom of heaven. There are men wearing disguises paid by the federal government, wandering through the streets, who have the right to arrest anyone they wish without evidence of wrongdoing or charges, and who can deprive those persons held of constitutionally guaranteed rights. If you've ever wondered what it's like to live in a dictatorship, that's it. I've recently been reading about Chile under Allende, and it wasn't too far off. This has been a grim year for our nation and the community of nations. We have threatened the sovereignty of Canada, used our military to attack and kill people at sea, associated more with dictators than with democratically elected governments, attempted economic warfare that has led to disaster for segments of our economy, including others as well, and broken international treaties regarding environmental issues. We have witnessed some people in power sympathizing with Nazi Germany. These are times when it can be difficult to feel grateful. The General Confession of the Episcopal Church contains the line, "There is no health in us." Perhaps when we survey the condition of our American society, we feel at times that there is no compassion, no empathy, no generosity, no faith in us as a nation among some segments. It feels like sometimes we are lacking in health. But there is still something better. For all that, we are still grateful. We cannot wait until we have arrived at a promised land to be grateful. That will never work for us. In fact, gratitude can be a form of defiance, a conscious decision to accept what is happening and still express thanks for the life that we have, even in difficult and trying times. My colleague in ministry, Dan Schatz, reminds us that the holiday was created by President Lincoln in 1863 in the depths of the Civil War. Schatz notes that that was possibly the worst year in American history. 500,000 people had been killed already during the course of the war. 15% of the population of the United States, the Confederacy and the United States, all one people, had died. No one knew where this destruction of life and of the nation itself would lead. Schatz writes, "The real spiritual discipline of Thanksgiving is not to ignore suffering, but to fully acknowledge it, work to alleviate it, and yet still give thanks. It is to find reason for gratitude, even in pain or chaos. It is to look deeper into the fabric of our world and see blessings where we thought none could exist. Therein is the challenge of our times, and perhaps of every time. Our inner spiritual struggle as Unitarian Universalists, involved with issues of our times, might be cause for gratitude in the midst of chaos and suffering." Schatz continues, "True Thanksgiving is born of hardship as much as of joy. For it is in hardship that we realize and appreciate the foundations of our lives, the community and spirit that keeps us going, the smallest blessings now thrown into relief, the tiniest seeds of hope that unfold in us when we thought all hope to have fled. True Thanksgiving looks at life in its fullness and finds reason for gratitude. I might add The word paradox means, in one definition, a seemingly absurd statement or proposition that when examined may prove to be true. Being grateful in the midst of painful, difficult times is a paradox of the human condition. We don't just give thanks just because things are going well. Our most sincere gratitude might come to us when we are experiencing grief or distress. Sometimes I have found that gratitude grants me the capacity to cope with the moment. I can be grateful because my inner strength derives at times from a person or community that empowered me. I can be grateful that God gave me the gift of friends and family, and even if they are absent, the memory of their love and strength encourages me. And I think you have some of the same experiences. And there is another truth in all this. Our efforts and sacrifices are not in vain. We receive more than we give, though it does not always seem to be true. Our giving is always reciprocated, but we have to be spiritually aware of that which we receive. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German Protestant pastor who led resistance to the Nazis in the 1930s and 1940s. He was imprisoned during the Second World War and executed the month before the Third Reich surrendered. The German leaders wanted to be sure that no opponent of their regime would survive the war to rebuild the nation. Bonhoeffer was a threat to their future, as he could provide spiritual guidance to a new Germany. Bonhoeffer encourages us to be grateful in adversity. He wrote, "In ordinary life, we hardly realize that we receive a great deal more than we give, and that it is only with gratitude that life becomes rich." He reminds us that our actions may be more productive than we imagine, and that we are recipients of more than we think. Bonhoeffer believed that it is only with gratitude that life becomes rich. This seems so positive and so simple for a man who led resistance to Hitler to believe. How could someone expound gratitude when imprisoned in a concentration camp? Believing and giving thanks was still a powerful aspect of Bonhoeffer's spirituality, even when he was sure that Hitler's regime would eventually execute him. Those who knew him in the camp stated that he never changed his spiritual outlook or lost his confidence that love would eventually prevail. And when he was executed, he faced it boldly. We in our time face challenges to the spirit and to our principles. We know this. Yet our times are not yet as daunting as those that Abraham Lincoln faced in 1863. And he asked the nation to give thanks in days of death and despair. Even if the Union armies would be victorious, the cost to free the slaves was immense. He asked the American people still to be grateful. Still to be grateful. By doing so, you're expressing your unwillingness to surrender to the despair that is so prevalent in our times. You are bearing witness that you will not become dispirited by fools, meanness, and bigotry. Take time to reflect upon those in your life and communities who provide love, energy, meaning, and motivation. Give thanks for them. Give thanks for memories of those who have gone before. Give thanks for this time when people could be more open about themselves, when there is awareness of multiple ways of being and paths to truth. Give thanks that you have loved and been loved. Give thanks for this moment in time, even as difficult as it is. We live in challenging times, there can be no doubt. Hold on to the love that you have known and the love you still know. Even in the midst of loss and grief, there is still gratitude for love. Be grateful that you are still loved, even if you don't know it. Be grateful for things that you still need to do. Being grateful challenges the world. For all that, we're still grateful. And we will live. So be it. Blessed be.